talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you.
Underway, and it's McMahon back to Steve Nicol. Across the park to Gary Gillespie. Gillespie to Steve Staunton, who is at number 15 for Liverpool. And this is Gillespie at number 2. Forward for McMahon to chase, and it's Kenny Wharton in there to Brian Tinian. Tinian across the field to Neil MacDonald, just inside his own half. Neil MacDonald, he plays that one up forward for Goddard. It comes off Goddard there to John Barnes on the halfway line. Now to McMahon. McMahon switching it right across the field to Craig Johnson. It's intercepted by Brian Tinian, who finds Gascoigne. Gascoigne back to Tinian, just inside his own half. And Tinian plays a long, hopeful ball to Mirandinho, who's wearing 7 for Newcastle. Mirandinho's at 7, Goddard at 9. Michael O'Neill is playing. So too is David McCreary, Paul Gascoigne, Kenny Wharton, Brian Tinian, Glenn Roeder, Neil MacDonald and John Anderson. John Anderson at the centre of the defence as Barnes turns that inside to number 11, McMahon. A long ball played forward, and out comes Gary Kelly for his first touch. So it is certainly Liverpool not playing anything like the side that demolished Nottingham Forest in midweek in that awesome performance. But still, they are a very powerful squad. As Steve Nicol captaining Liverpool in the absence of Hansen, plays it in the area. McCreary is back there well to deny John Barnes and get that ball back to Gary Kelly. Gary Kelly saying earlier that he wasn't concerned about nerves as that's played forward to Michael O'Neill. O'Neill trying to touch it out to Wharton, robbed by Nicol. In comes Anderson with the interception to Gascoigne, to Tinian. Tinian, a good ball to Kenny Wharton. O'Neill can't hold on to that. And Gillespie making the interception in the centre circle to McMahon, who's got some space. McMahon scored a goal from long range at Anfield over the holiday, and there's Barnes with the shot, but that's over Gary Kelly's crossbar. 17 and a half minutes left in the first half. Newcastle United 0, Liverpool 0. As we're just getting confirmation of 1 or 2 team changes. We've been through the Newcastle side, and it is as expected, without Peter Jackson, without Darren Jackson, but Mirandinho past fit and playing for the first time for Newcastle United at Wembley. He has played for Brazil and he's scored here. As the pitch pretty wet. There's been a lot of rain early this morning in London. MacDonald midway inside his own half. A long ball for Michael O'Neill, and there's a good crowd of Newcastle supporters here this morning. Just to run through that Liverpool side for you, we've sorted out the change in their lineup. And it's Hooper in goal in place of Grobbelaar. Nicol at 4, Gillespie at 2, Watson at 5. Gillespie and Alex Watson, the 2 central defenders. Gary Ablett at 3. Barnes at 10 will operate in midfield alongside Steve McMahon. Kevin MacDonald wears 14, Steve Staunton 15, and up front Johnston and Aldridge. But so far Newcastle giving a pretty good account of themselves as O'Neill has a shot that goes wide of Mike Hooper's goal. 2,500 Newcastle fans here, that's the estimation, and that is representing, I would have thought, a quarter of the fans at Wembley so far. Out to Craig Johnston on the right, has Aldridge and Barnes in the middle. That's played inside to Barnes, he's 30 yards out, plays it back to McMahon. Gascoigne closing him down. It's played square to Stevie Nicol on the right. Nicol trying to find Craig Johnston, that's a good ball, and Anderson is across to cover, and Johnston just carrying the ball over for a goal kick to Newcastle United. 15 and a half minutes left in this first half. Newcastle United 0, Liverpool 0. The winners will play Tranmere Rovers in the quarter-final. That match at 1:20 this afternoon. Tinian looking for O'Neill. This is Kenny Wharton. Wharton looking for Mirandinho. It's intercepted, but Anderson is back there to cover as the ball is played through to Aldridge. Now Neil MacDonald to Paul Gascoigne, just inside his own half, finds Mirandinha. Mirandinha, a good ball across to Tyne in some space. Tyne coming over the halfway line through the inside right channel to Paul Gascoigne. And Newcastle looking to force the first corner, but Hooper across to take that back pass just before it goes out of play. Gary Ablett to Steve Staunton. Ablett again, a long ball played through for McMahon and well cut out by Glenn Roeder on his chest, brings it down, plays it to the feet of Neil MacDonald to Gascoigne. He shows too much of that to Barnes, and there could be something on here as McMahon gets it inside to Barnes, and a great tackle by David McCreary. Brilliant play by the young Irishman, because Barnes was clear through then and McCreary appeared from nowhere to take the ball off his feet, and Anderson was there to complete the clearing up process and get the ball back to Gary Kelly. Gary Kelly says he's been studying the penalty-taking technique of the Liverpool players. One of their penalty takers you would have assumed would have been Beardsley, but he is not in the starting lineup, nor is Ray Houghton. That's to MacDonald. Midway inside the Liverpool half of the field. Mirandinha, a good ball with Goddard. Back to Mirandinha. Mirandinha in that area to Goddard again. Back to goal, Paul Goddard. Makes space for himself, does well. But in the end, weight of numbers forced the ball out of play for a throw into Newcastle, but just 10 yards from the right-wing corner flag. Newcastle attacking the Liverpool goal. Thrown inside to Mirandinha. McCreary comes to help him, but Gary Ablett is there to clear the danger for Liverpool across his own penalty area to Steve Nicol. Now to Craig Johnson. Craig Johnson goes past Kenny Wharton on the far right of the field. Well inside Newcastle territory now. He's been closed down by Tinian and Wharton, who's back. But this is Steve Nicol. Gascoigne back, blocking his path to go. That's a good ball inside to number 14 for Liverpool, Kevin MacDonald. But again, McCreary is there to deny MacDonald. And Gary Kelly has possession inside his own 6-yard box. Mirandinha making himself available on the right. Mirandinha wearing number 7. Normally wears 10 for Newcastle, but he's had to surrender that shirt to Michael O'Neill, who's been in such magnificent goal-scoring form recently. 8 in the last 5 league games. And how the youngster would love to score at Wembley. And that's a great ball through the middle by Liverpool to MacDonald. That's Kevin MacDonald, of course, of Liverpool, who hasn't had much of a look in the Liverpool side this season, because Kenny Dalglish's first team has been so brilliant. But this is not the strongest Liverpool side by a long way, but still pretty useful, with names like Aldridge and Barnes up front, McMahon in midfield, Craig Johnston. This is Roeder, who's taken the short ball from Gary Kelly to Gascoigne, to MacDonald, to Mirandinha, to Gascoigne, and Gascoigne takes that in his stride and glides over the halfway line. A lovely ball to Goddard. Goddard takes it well, looks for support, finds it in MacDonald. Still Newcastle just inside the Liverpool half, building what could be a promising move as Gascoigne tries to thread one through for Kenny Wharton. And Wharton is adjudged to a foul, Steve Nicol, and doesn't like that decision. But the free kick quickly taken. 11 and a half minutes to go in this first period. McMahon to John Barnes. And the only chance of the game so far falling to Barnes and denied by some brilliant play by David McCreary. This is Staunton on the left. McCreary across to challenge him. So too is MacDonald. And in the end, Staunton taking the ball out of play. So it's a goal kick to Newcastle United. The fans fairly subdued so far. If it does come to a penalty shootout, we'll be looking at certainly Gascoigne, MacDonald and Tinian for Newcastle. It's sudden death, incidentally. McCreary touching that one on well with his chest to Mirandinha. Mirandinha, a good ball inside to Wharton. Wharton a first touch to Gascoigne, who does well to find Mirandinha. Mirandinha, the return ball to Gascoigne. Now then, what can Gascoigne do here as he glides past one player, but is denied in the end by Alex Watson. Watson picks out McMahon in the centre circle. And that's a good ball out to Craig Johnston on the right with a lot of space. Wharton back to cover him. Tinian is there too, and a good challenge by Anderson, but it comes to Stevie Nicol. Nicol, of course, who got a hat-trick at St James's Park. In goes Roeder, a good challenge, but only as far as Barnes. and Barnes adjudged to have fouled Glenn Roeder. So it's a free kick to Newcastle United that Roeder takes back to goalkeeper Gary Kelly. We're quarter of the way through this first match for Newcastle at Wembley since they played in the League Cup final 12 years ago. And that's back with Gary Kelly via Tyne, as the rain is getting a little heavier, if anything. And Wembley's going to be in a sorry state by tomorrow night if this keeps up. That long ball is won in the air by Alex Watson, but it falls for Gascoigne. Midway inside the Liverpool half to Mirandinha. Mirandinha tries one, and that skids off the turf, but wide by about a couple of feet of Mike Hooper's goal. So it's a goal kick to Liverpool. Hooper then in place of Grobbelaar. A back four of Nicol, Gillespie, Watson and Ablett for Liverpool. Lovely touch, Aldridge to Barnes. Midway inside the Newcastle half on the far right. Now Craig Johnston taking over from Barnes. Cuts inside, finds Steve McMahon. He's immediately closed down by McCreary, but passes that into the path of Gary Gillespie, who's going through, and he's in the area, in the 6-yard area, and out comes Gary Kelly and makes the challenge. A good save by Gary Kelly, and in fact it looked like a corner kick, but it must have bounced back off Gary Kelly, off Gary Gillespie for the goal kick. So a goal kick to Newcastle, quickly taken and taken short to Roeder as Aldridge closed in, but it's back with Gary Kelly as the Newcastle fans to our right sing "Away the Lads" as Gillespie goes up, and that's touched off him by Wharton. Inside for Goddard. Goddard taking that and immediately making space for himself well to Neil MacDonald. Neil MacDonald square for David McCreary. Has Tyne in support on the left, and Tyne plays an inch-perfect pass to Michael O'Neill. A first-time ball to Gascoigne, inside to Paul Goddard, and Goddard trying to find Kenny Wharton. It comes back though to Gascoigne. Gascoigne for O'Neill. O'Neill being challenged by Staunton. And that's a throw-in to Liverpool. Inside to number 14, Kevin MacDonald. Across the field to Steve Nicol. 7.5 minutes left in the first half. Newcastle United 0, Liverpool 0. And the only threat on either goal so far has been an effort by John Barnes. In fact, 2 for Liverpool. Gillespie getting into the area and a good save by Gary Kelly. Barnes denied by a brilliant challenge from David McCreary. But Liverpool have a lot of space here as McMahon bursts through the middle. Has Neil MacDonald in front of him and Glenn Roeder. And again it's McCreary back with a good challenge. But the referee spotting an infringement, a challenge by Roeder on McMahon. And it's going to be a free kick to Liverpool in a very, very dangerous position, just a couple of yards outside the area. McMahon and Barnes over the ball. Newcastle making a 6-man wall, including Mirandinha and Michael O'Neill. And it's Barnes to try the shot, and it's a good effort too, and it comes to Aldridge, and it's just wide. Oh, and that looked as if it could break the deadlock. Aldridge involved. The big giant scoreboard says ooh, and it wasn't very far away, so that's going to be a corner kick to Liverpool. I think coming off Tyne in the end. And Liverpool so dangerous from set pieces. And it's Barnes to take the corner kick with Johnston up there, and it's headed away well by Anderson. But Barnes will pick this up again. He has Nicol making the run down the right, but he's being forced back to Gillespie. Gillespie inside to McMahon, midway inside the Newcastle half, and that's a wasted ball by McMahon to Tyne. Tyne finds Goddard. Goddard under pressure from McMahon, back to Tyne. And Tyne doing well to shake off a challenge from Craig Johnston, and fouled in the process, so Newcastle will get a free kick on the far side of Wembley, the left-back position, some 15 yards inside the Newcastle half. Tyne to take this. Just over 5 minutes left in this first half. Tinian inside to McCreary, to Anderson. Anderson looking for Goddard. Goddard finds McDonald. McDonald brings that down in the outside right position. Chips it in for O'Neill. It's won comfortably by Gillespie. And Liverpool beginning to assert their authority as Barnes tries to slip past Anderson. But Wharton there to pick up the loose ball and safely steer that back towards Gary Kelly, who gets it back via Brian Tinian. Liverpool 0, Newcastle United 0. A long clearance is met by Alex Watson, only as far as David McCreary. Watson, I think, possibly making his debut for Liverpool and making it at Wembley. Later on, at 4:40 this afternoon, Tim Carter will be making his debut for Sunderland. Mirandinha, just inside the Liverpool half, going on a good run, finds Goddard. Goddard to Roeder in some space. McDonald takes it up there, but Roeder's gone on the overlap. Mirandinha finds him, and that pass lacking weight as Roeder goes in to try and reclaim it from Steve Staunton. As Staunton finds McMahon. Liverpool still in their own quarter of the field. Not now, though, as they release John Barnes over the halfway line. Barnes goes past McCreary and doesn't have to check his pace at all. Now he's on the edge of the area as Craig Johnston to his right. Barnes still going. The PFA Player of the Year, and what an exciting player he is too, as that's chipped in by Nicol. Back to Johnston. Johnston trying to get into a shooting position, and surely is he offside? He isn't. The flag stays down, and Gary Kelly comes out and denies him with a tremendously courageous save as Barnes flicked the ball through for Craig Johnston. Johnston just 5 yards out, and Gary Kelly off his line in a flash flung himself at Johnston's feet to make the save. Well, that's the second brave save that Gary Kelly has made in this game. And his clearance towards Michael O'Neill, headed on by McCreary. Wharton in there well, but beaten by Steve Staunton, and McCreary down, hobbling in the centre circle as Barnes has possession. Barnes challenged by Anderson, but it breaks for McMahon, and it's 3 against 3, and McMahon has the shot, and Gary Kelly flinging himself to his left tips that one round, and Newcastle really under pressure, and Liverpool certainly seem to know when to raise the pace, and they're trying to get one in the 2.5 minutes remaining in this first half, but it's still Liverpool 0, Newcastle United 0. A second corner to Liverpool. John Barnes across to take it. Craig Johnston and Kevin McDonald in that area, and also Steve Staunton, and Gary Kelly came for that, got a finger to it, and it's out for another corner on the far side. Mirandinha unable to keep the ball in play, and this time I think Liverpool are going to play it short. No, in fact, Staunton leaving it forward. It's played short for Staunton, and here's McMahon, and a good challenge, and Gillespie's shot is over the bar. It was a good challenge by Roeder. The ball broke loose to Gary Gillespie just 5 yards outside the area. He tried a first-time shot, and that was over Gary Kelly's crossbar. So Kelly has made 3 very good saves indeed in this first half, as Gascoigne on the ball, and fairly quiet introduction to Wembley for Gascoigne as he finds O'Neill. O'Neill inside to McCreary. McCreary's played here lots of times, of course, for Northern Ireland. And now McDonald. Neil McDonald for Newcastle, just inside his own half to McCreary. McCreary trying to thread it through to Gascoigne, but McDonald does find Gascoigne. Now Gascoigne in a little bit of space to Mirandinha on his chest as the whistle has gone. O'Neill, I think, having strayed just offside, so that's going to be a free kick to Liverpool. 1.5 minutes to go as McMahon back to Nicol, and Nicol playing it back to Alex Watson, wearing 5, playing at the centre of the defence for Liverpool. 3 unfamiliar names then in this, or 2 certainly, in Watson and Staunton. Ablett at left back as Mirandinha for Gascoigne in the centre circle, just inside the Liverpool half to Goddard. Goddard trying to thread that through to O'Neill, and it very nearly got there. And now he finds McDonald on the right, and Neil McDonald's cross is a good one, and it's headed behind by Watson with 36 seconds left on the clock. Now Newcastle want to get this corner in. I don't think they're going to have any problems. If Liverpool break from this, there's just not going to be time for Liverpool to do anything about it, but there is perhaps time for Newcastle. Michael O'Neill to take it. Goddard and Gascoigne in the middle. That's aimed towards Roeder. It's headed away just as far as Gascoigne. Gascoigne picking up possession just outside the box and slips past McDonald. Now can he get the cross in? He gets it back to McDonald, who does get a good cross in, looking for Mirandini. It's headed behind for another corner, but there are just 3 seconds left on the clock, and I don't think there will be time for this corner kick to be taken. So Newcastle ending the first half with perhaps the ascendancy. As the whistle goes, it's Newcastle United 0, Liverpool 0, and Gary Kelly keeping Newcastle in this game. That's the situation here. We'll be back with the second half in just 1 minute. You rejoin us at the start of the second half. Newcastle getting this second period underway. 20 minutes each way, remember. No score in the first half. Liverpool perhaps shading it on points with Barnes and Craig Johnston and Aldridge all going close, but Gary Kelly making 2 very brave saves, and then one to deny Steve McMahon, as that's played forward from Mirandini. Mirandini heading on, looking for Goddard. It's cut out by Alex Watson. Watson forward for Staunton. Staunton inside to Barnes. That's left for Kevin McDonald. To McMahon on the far side. Inside to John Barnes, just outside the area. Anderson not giving him any space at all. As Liverpool come forward to Aldridge. Aldridge just outside the box. Now McMahon. And Newcastle not letting Liverpool get into shooting positions as Wharton clears up and finds Paul Goddard. And Goddard, a bad ball, looking for Mirandini. That's easily cut out by Ablett. Forward for Aldridge, and a great return ball for John Barnes, and Gary Kelly out again, and that was superb goalkeeping because Barnes was clear through, and Gary Kelly off his line in a flash to deny John Barnes, who scored so many goals this season from that sort of position. So the ball with Gary Kelly, and the Newcastle fans chant there's only one Gary Kelly, and what a good season he's had, and it's really very difficult to see how Jack Charlton could leave him out of the Republic of Ireland squad. As Steve Nicol comes bursting forward for Liverpool, Roeder is across to deny Aldridge, and Brian Tinian combining there well with his skipper. It's with Kelly. 18 minutes to penalty time, providing there are no goals. But Liverpool so capable of just stepping up a gear as McDonald bursts through to McMahon, and this is dangerous, and Neil McDonald back there well to take the ball off his toes, and Liverpool getting to carve out openings in this Newcastle defence. And it must be remembered this is a Liverpool side without Houghton, without Beardsley, without Hansen, without Spackman, from the side that annihilated Nottingham Forest on Wednesday night. Nevertheless, Newcastle giving a very good account of themselves indeed. This is Mirandini just inside his own half, playing a ball backwards of Brian Tinian. Tinian races back to retrieve it, finds Mirandini in support again. Mirandini looking for the return ball to Tinian, under pressure from Craig Johnston, finds Tinian though. Tinian back to Mirandini. Newcastle going nowhere at the moment, winning a throw-in 10 yards from the halfway line. Newcastle inside their own half of the field. And Brian Tinian to take it, and a substitution being made, and it's John Aldridge going off, and Liverpool's number 13 coming on, and difficult to see who that is. I can tell you it isn't Peter Beardsley, and I think it's another of the youngsters, and maybe that is Charlie Boyd. We'll confirm who it is in just a moment, but he's wearing number 13. We'll identify him as soon as we can, but it's Aldridge off, and that's perhaps another possible advantage to Newcastle as Gascoigne goes on a run, threading his way through that Liverpool defence, and then a beautiful inch-perfect pass to McDonald. McDonald's cross is a great one, and O'Neill should have buried that. A header from point-blank range, and he just didn't make contact. Now Tinian floats it back in there. It comes back to Paul Gascoigne. Gascoigne just outside the area, thinking about trying one. He's denied, though, by Craig Johnston. And Glenn Roeder getting into trouble with the Liverpool substitute, number 13, and that's John Dernian. And that news being confirmed to me by Bill Arthur, who's down here working for Radio City. So, 15 and a half minutes left for play. Newcastle having created their best chance of this game. McDonald's perfect cross for Michael O'Neill, and the youngster just unable to make contact from 5 yards out. But now United have a free kick, and it's just outside the Liverpool penalty area. Tyne squares it for McDonald. McDonald within range and tries one and doesn't get a hold of that at all. It's behind for a goal kick. And now Newcastle prepare to make a substitution, and it looks to be like Paul Stevenson coming on. The linesman on the far side is flagging. It's David McCreary coming off. And David McCreary's had a very, very good game indeed. 14 and a half minutes left. Newcastle 0, Liverpool 0. And a confident move that by Newcastle. Willie McFall perhaps hoping to try and win this game rather than let it go to penalties. But I don't think McCreary would have been in the reckoning as one of the penalty takers, so it's not a bad move at all by the Newcastle boss, as Barnes has possession just outside the area. That's a good ball out onto the left. The cross comes in from Staunton. Craig Johnson heading it back. Nicol with a shot. It's not a bad one. It's off the line by Anderson. The shot comes back in. Anderson heads it away. And Liverpool now putting on the pressure as McMahon picks up the loose ball. But he's been forced back some 40 yards from goal to Steve Nicol. Nicol back to Gary Gillespie on the halfway line. And Newcastle appear to have weathered that little storm. But it's played inside for McDonald, Kevin McDonald that is, to John Dernian, and his ball meant for McDonald is well read by Wharton, but Mirandini makes a mess of that, but Wharton retrieves possession and finds Mirandini to Goddard, and if Goddard can find O'Neill here, there could be something on as Gascoigne gets forward too. O'Neill inside to Goddard, and Goddard shakes off one challenge and finds Stevenson on the right. Stevenson's cross for Goddard, and Goddard hits that one. It's only an inch over the bar. A superb cross by Paul Stevenson, a great volley by Paul Goddard, and that had Mike Cooper stretching, and it must have been just an inch over the crossbar. Some lovely football by Newcastle. It's Liverpool 0, Newcastle United 0. 13 minutes and 11 seconds on the clock as John Barnes tries to go past John Anderson. Left for Steve Nicol. Back for Alex Watson. Played up towards Roeder. And Roeder, a good ball to Goddard. Goddard looking for support. Finds it from Gascoigne. Gascoigne 35 yards out. Not tempted to have the shot. Instead trying to find Mirandini. Mirandini trying to play the ball back to Gascoigne. That's cut out though. As Liverpool come away. And the ball up with Barnes. Played through the middle to Staunton. Staunton on a good run. Roeder a good strong challenge. Just outside his own area. Picks out Paul Stevenson to Goddard. Goddard again taking possession well. Holding it up. But having to play it back in the end to Neil McDonald. McDonald, a 30-yardage perfect pass across the field to Michael O'Neill, who just pops it down for Tyne. But Liverpool have regained possession through Alex Watson. And now Gillespie. Gillespie playing in perhaps his favoured central defensive role. And that's a good-looking ball played through, but Neil McDonald cutting it out. And back to Gary Kelly. Kelly certainly Newcastle United's hero in this game so far. Denying John Barnes with a tremendously courageous save. Wharton going on a run and brought down on the halfway line by Gary Gillespie. That'll be a free kick to Newcastle that Paul Gascoigne is over the ball. Has Stevenson on the right. Plays it square for Glenn Roeder. Now to Neil McDonald. Still just inside the Liverpool half on the right. Stevenson. Stevenson doing well, cutting inside, but too many bodies there as he gets tangled up with Kenny Wharton, and John Barnes comes in to deny him. As the crowd begins to build up here at Wembley, I should think about 8,000 were in for the Tranmere Rovers win over Wimbledon. And the winners of this game will meet the winners of that game as Craig Johnson gets into the Newcastle area, but putting the ball too far ahead, and Gary Kelly out to deny. Now to Michael O'Neill. O'Neill to Goddard as Mirandini lets that slip to his legs to Wharton. Wharton back to Gascoigne. Gascoigne the playmaker just inside his own half to Neil McDonald, who has an easy ball to play to Stevenson on the right. And Stevenson shakes off a challenge from Staunton. Gets it back to McDonald. Now to Gascoigne. Gascoigne a lovely first touch. There's to Stevenson on the right. Stevenson taking on Gary Ablett now. If he can get past Ablett, there could be something on for Newcastle here, and he does, and he gets the cross in. It's headed away by Gillespie. Only as far as Wharton. Wharton getting into that area. He comes down, no whistle from the referees. McDonald comes away. Kevin McDonald, that is, for Liverpool. Up to John Dernian, one of the Liverpool substitutes. He plays a dangerous-looking ball through to John Barnes, but Gary Kelly seeing that and quickly off his line. Exactly 10 minutes to go. We're three-quarters of the way through the game. And the Newcastle fans, in good voice, sensing perhaps there could be an upset. Not many teams have beaten Liverpool this season. Everton twice, Nottingham Forest. This wouldn't really count if United were to win, but they might not, because McMahon gets through to Barnes with this a glorious chance, and he puts it wide. But Kelly, again, credit to him, coming out and narrowing the angle, and Rhoda screaming at his defence that they shouldn't have given Barnes that much space. And it was McMahon creating that opening for John Barnes, as Tinian picks up the short goal kick to Michael O'Neill. Michael O'Neill cuts inside Steve Nicol, midway inside his own half. O'Neill finds Tinian. Newcastle chances restricted to a good opportunity for O'Neill, and a splendid volley by Paul Goddard. Tinian down the line looking for O'Neill. It's cut out by Steve Nicol. Inside to Craig Johnston, though, with Dernian and Barnes in the middle. And that's played to the far post, and a good header by Staunton. And Gary Kelly down well to his right-hand post to make the save. And that's played forward for Gascoigne, but McMahon back there to deny him. Mirandini trying to close down, and Newcastle really putting quite a lot of pressure on Liverpool, but Nicol finds a good ball to Craig Johnston just inside the Newcastle half. McMahon to Barnes, 35 yards out, John Barnes. Played inside to Dernian. Across goes McDonald with a good challenge, and Tinian wanting to dwell too long on the ball as Barnes' challenge comes in. And the throw-in given Liverpool's way. They're using several balls in this game. As soon as the ball goes out of play, another one is thrown on, so they can keep very much to the schedule. As Nicol plays a nice 1-2 with Craig Johnston. A good cross, and it's away by Stevenson in the end to Kenny Wharton, just outside his own area, but with a bit of space, and he hits a long ball looking for Goddard, and it's a good job that for Liverpool that Gillespie is 6'3", because he got up to just get an important header to that, as Anderson gets an important header in for Newcastle United. Down to Kenny Wharton, to Michael O'Neill. Mirandini making a run. Goddard keeping possession for Newcastle, but not for long, as he's robbed by Steve Nicol. Nicol cutting inside Michael O'Neill, and O'Neill sticking out a leg and getting a deflection to Wharton, who gives it away in a dangerous position to Kevin McDonald. McDonald trying the shot, and it's a good one too, and Gary Kelly on the edge of his 6-yard box has to fling himself across to his right to put that behind for a corner kick. 7 minutes left. Newcastle United 0, Liverpool 0. And Liverpool, it must be said, the more dangerous side, but United have had their opportunities too. That's played in short to Barnes, but he's quickly robbed by McDonald to Stevenson. Stevenson trying to go past Ablett. Gets halfway past him anyway, but Ablett recovers, and Stevenson has to play it back to Neil McDonald. Now to John Anderson, to Glenn Roeder, to Mirandini with a bit of space. Mirandini been fairly quiet, cutting inside of Craig Johnston. Now to McDonald. McDonald down to the path of Gascoigne. Gascoigne trying to feed Anderson, who've gone on a run. But Liverpool have possession, and Anderson will have to get back here quickly, because it's 3 against 3. If Liverpool release the ball, and the man in possession is Craig Johnston, but Anderson has got back. Steve Nicol up on the overlap where he caused so much damage at St James's Park, finds Johnston on the right. Johnston gets past O'Neill, gets into the area, plays it inside. Anderson with a good challenge, but it comes for Ablett. Ablett just outside the box, and a great ball inside for Staunton. McDonald robs him. Ablett forward again to Dernian on the far side. On the left for Liverpool. Played inside to Staunton, and Roeder across to deny him. But Newcastle still finding it difficult to get out of their own area. And Roeder just playing touch football with McDonald, and still they can't get it away. Now Roeder has a chance. And no kick and rush stuff by Newcastle. They're trying to match Liverpool for footballing skills, and they eventually get it back to Gary Kelly, who bowls it out to Brian Tyne on the other side of the field. Tyne had made some space. He finds Michael O'Neill. O'Neill in for Goddard. Goddard taking that well, moving inside to Kenny Wharton. Wharton to Tyne, a lovely touch to Michael O'Neill, outside left position, halfway line, to Mirandinha. Mirandinha looking for support, finds it with a great ball to McDonald. McDonald, a first-time touch to Goddard. Goddard 5 yards outside the area, but a good challenge from behind. Releases the ball to Steve McMahon. Under 5 minutes left. McMahon forward for Kevin McDonald. McDonald with an awful lot of space as Neil McDonald comes to try and close him down, but Kevin McDonald's still going. And now it's for Barnes. Barnes just outside the area. And Newcastle would like to see the back of this as Johnston's shot in the end, fed by Barnes, is wide of Gary Kelly's left-hand post. 4 minutes 31, and the Newcastle fans sensing perhaps this is going to go to penalties. The ball played short from the goal kick to Tyne inside to Michael O'Neill, midway inside his own half. And Michael now operating in a midfield role. Goddard playing a ball down the line for Gascoigne to chase, and Gascoigne won't keep that in play as the ball skids away off the slippery turf. Alex Watson across to take the corner kick, and it's interesting that Aldridge has been substituted. If this does go to penalties, Newcastle may well have the more experienced players to take them. I would imagine that Nicol and Barnes and McMahon certainly very capable. Also Kevin McDonald. But it hasn't come to penalties yet, not by some 3.5 minutes, as Barnes inside for Dernian. Dernian, a good ball for Staunton, and Anderson is across well, and Gary Kelly down and just preventing himself from sliding over the line for a corner kick. 3 minutes 21 left on the clock, and now I think perhaps United might settle for the penalty situation, but although they've given Liverpool a lot of space, they've created one or two opportunities themselves, and Michael O'Neill has had the chance to put United ahead, but they haven't really forced a save out of Hooper, as Roda's header is a weak one, and it's a chance for Dernian to break. Anderson is across covering him, so too is Roda, but Dernian still going and gets a good touch back to McMahon. McMahon 10 yards inside the Newcastle half, but Liverpool can break from these sort of situations, as everyone will have seen on Wednesday night. It's Alex Watson wearing 5 coming forward inside to Steve McMahon. A good ball out onto the right to Steve Nicol. Nicol trying to get past Michael O'Neill, and O'Neill blocking his way. It's back for Watson again. Now to Staunton, to McMahon. Anderson in there with a good challenge and gets it up towards Mirandinha. Watson the challenge, beating Mirandinha. Liverpool with possession again through Ablett. Ablett on the far side to Kevin McDonald, and Liverpool have now strung together 14 passes. 15 as it goes to Nicol, 16 to Craig Johnston. Johnston trying to slip it inside for McMahon, and that's where the sequence ends as Roda makes the interception, gets it back to Gary Kelly. 1 minute 50 left on the clock. Newcastle United 0, Liverpool 0. It's been a good, brave performance by Newcastle United. Neil McDonald playing a long ball for Gascoigne. Out comes Hooper and takes that just outside the area. Inside the area, though. Outside the area, the linesman confirms Hooper is furious. United, with 1.5 minutes left, have a free kick. It's on the edge of the area as Wembley begins to fill up, and the crowd have already seen one upset. That was Tranmere Rovers, 15th in the 4th Division, beating 7th placed Wimbledon. Now, with 1 minute 11 on the clock, United have a free kick. Anderson, Tinian, as Beardsley comes on for the last minute. And I haven't even seen who went off, I'm afraid, in that. I just saw Peter Beardsley come on. Presumably someone has gone off. So Peter Beardsley on the field for Liverpool. 51 seconds left. And Newcastle quite happy to see the time tick away, because maybe they can just waste sufficient time to have this effort from the free kick. Gascoigne to take it. It cannons off a Liverpool player's head. It's headed away. It's hooked clear. and the flag is up for offside against Paul Goddard. The ball will be retrieved with 31 seconds left, and Newcastle within sight of holding Liverpool over 40 minutes and taking this match into the first penalty shootout of the Football League Centenary Mercantile Credit Classic Festival, as Liverpool, into the last 10 seconds of the game, come forward on the far side, and the first touch for Beardsley, but out comes Gary Kelly to deny him, and that's played square to Tyne. The referee blows his whistle, and this match will go to penalties. Remember, it is sudden death. It's not the best of 5 from each side. That is to say, if, say, Neil MacDonald takes a penalty for Newcastle and scores, and Liverpool miss one, then Newcastle will be through to the quarter-finals, and the winners of this match will play Tranmere Rovers at 1:20. So there's a tremendous amount at stake, and this really is going to be very dramatic. Stay with us here on Metro Medium Wave as the players shake hands and the referee is explaining exactly what's going to happen. I think these penalties will be taken, and in just about 1 minute's time we'll be back with that action. Steve McMahon to take the first penalty of the Mercantile Festival against Gary Kelly. Steps up 3 strides, and Gary Kelly saved it! He has saved it! He went to his left, he stuck out his right foot, and the ball balloons over. And it's going to be Neil MacDonald against Mike Hooper. If Neil scores this, United have beaten Liverpool. The players can't watch. Glenn Roeder facing the other way. Tinian and Gascoigne, though, they're watching Neil MacDonald. Willie McFall and John Pickering out on the field. Mike Hooper, Neil MacDonald, 2,500 Geordies behind this goal. MacDonald 4 steps, up he strides, he scored! Neil MacDonald to Hooper's left. Gary Kelly fists in the air. John Cornwall out. The celebrations go on. The American football salute. Mirandilla hugs Gary Kelly. So too does Willie McFall. Magnificent moments for Newcastle. Peter Jackson out there. Tommy Wright as well. Liverpool beaten by only the 3rd team this season. Maybe it's not the same as in a cup or a league match, but beaten them they have. Liverpool didn't feel their strongest side and have been made to pay for that. But Newcastle United's hero, Gary Kelly, they're through to the quarter-finals. They'll play Tranmere Rovers. It's a 1:20 kickoff, and we'll be bringing you coverage of that game here on Metro. But what a marvellous morning for Newcastle United. What a great morning for Gary Kelly. He saves Steve McMahon's penalty. Neil MacDonald, who's been missing them, steps up under tremendous pressure, gave Mike Hooper no chance. Sudden death penalties. MacDonald won for Newcastle. McMahon fails for Liverpool. Newcastle into the last 8.